FBI served a warrant at the Fulton County Elections Facility, removing thousands of ballots from the 2020 election.
It appears that Georgia is still on the Trump administration's mind, as the 2020 presidential election was at the center of this investigation.
4:22 in the morning, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. January frost covered the parking lot of the cross-country inn. The hotel sat along Highway 100, a stretch known for budget travelers and interstate truckers. Nothing about the building suggested chaos. But inside, something had already broken. Room 237 was trashed. Furniture overturned. Windows shattered. Blood streaked across the carpet. By sunrise, 26 people would be in federal custody. What started as a disturbance call spiraled into something far larger. A coordinated federal sting operation worth over $100 million. An immigration enforcement trap disguised as temporary shelter. And a riot that exposed how deeply the system had been penetrated. If you want to see how this unfolded, hit like now so this story reaches more people. Let me show you what really happened. 3 weeks earlier, ICE had flagged the cross-country inn. Not for drugs, not for weapons, for a pattern that didn't make sense. The hotel had been leased in bulk, 87 rooms. Paid upfront for 6 months. Cash transactions totaling $1.3 million. The company listed on the lease was North Star Humanitarian Services, a registered nonprofit claiming to provide refugee resettlement support. But when analysts ran the numbers, something was off. North Star had no staff, no office, no operational history beyond 8 months. The address listed on incorporation documents was a UPS store in Bloomington. This wasn't a humanitarian group. This was a shell. Federal surveillance began quietly. Agents watched the hotel for 19 days. What they observed defied every protocol for legitimate resettlement operations. Arrivals happened exclusively between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. vans with covered windows. No luggage, no families, not children, not elderly refugees, young men, ages 18 to 34. Over 200 individuals cycled through the hotel in 3 weeks. None registered with immigration services. None attended resettlement orientations. They disappeared into the Twin Cities within 48 hours of arrival. Comment exposed below if you're ready to see what happened next. ICE analysts mapped the movement patterns. Facial recognition software linked arrivals to prior deportation records. 68% of identified individuals had been removed from the United States at least once. Some twice, a few 3 times. The system was importing illegal re-entry cases in bulk. But the money trail revealed something bigger. North Star Humanitarian Services was one of 14 identical entities incorporated within a 9-month window, all registered in Minnesota, all using variations of humanitarian language, all funded through the same offshore account network. Together, they controlled $23.7 million in federal grant allocations, emergency housing subsidies, refugee assistance programs, Medicaid reimbursements for mental health services never rendered. The funding came from HHS, FEMA, and Lutheran Social Services distribution channels. On paper, everything looked legitimate. Contracts were filed, reports submitted, compliance boxes checked, but none of the people being housed qualified for the programs funding their stay. This wasn't fraud. This was infrastructure. The decision to move came from Washington, not Minneapolis field offices. The operation required federal coordination across IC, FBI, and Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. The target wasn't just the hotel, it was the entire pipeline. At 3:47 a.m. on January 14th, surveillance detected unusual activity. Vehicles arrived in convoy formation. 7 vans, no headlights. Thermal imaging showed 34 heat signatures moving through the hotel corridors. Not guests, not staff, enforcers. The plan had been to wait, to document the network fully before striking. But intelligence suggested imminent violence. ICE Command made the call. Execute now. Type yes if you believe they made the right move. Strike teams deployed at 4:22 a.m. 3 entry points. Synchronized breach. Highway patrol sealed the access roads. Aerial units held position overhead. No sirens. No warnings. The first team hit the main entrance. Battering rams struck the reinforced doors. Glass exploded inward. Flashbangs detonated in the lobby. Smoke filled the corridors. Agents moved fast, room by room. Tactical lights cutting through darkness. Room 118, 4 men. No resistance. Hands up immediately. Room 203, 2 men tried the window. Taser deployment. Controlled subdual. Room 237, this is where it turned. The door was barricaded from inside. Furniture stacked. Mattresses wedged against the frame. Agents breached with hydraulic tools. The room exploded in chaos. 8 men inside. Weapons drawn. Not guns, blades. Improvised clubs. A fight erupted. Hand to hand. Chairs smashed. Mirrors shattered. One agent took a glass shard to the forearm. Another was struck with a metal rod. But training held. Within 90 seconds, all 8 were on the ground. Zip-tied. Controlled. The hotel shook with the sound of boots and shouting. Other rooms emptied fast. Men poured into hallways. Some tried to run. Some tried to hide. K-9 units tracked runners through the parking lot. Perimeter teams caught 5 attempting to breach the fence line. By 5:03 a.m., the hotel was secure. 26 arrests. 14 injuries. 0 fatalities. If this shocks you, hit like right now. Inside the rooms, agents found more than bodies. They found evidence of coordination. Burner phones, 47 of them, all active within the last 72 hours. Encrypted messaging apps with channels labeled by city names. Chicago, Detroit, Denver, Los Angeles. Ledgers written in coded shorthand. Dates, amounts, routes. One notebook contained names and addresses. 89 entries, all in the Midwest. These weren't refugees waiting for resettlement. These were operatives embedded in a distribution network. Room 311 held the financial hub. Laptop, external hard drives, USB devices. Forensic teams extracted the data on site. What they found confirmed the scale. $102.4 million moved through the network over 18 months. Funds originated from federal disbursements, routed through North Star and its sister entities, then redistributed through cash pickups, prepaid cards, and cryptocurrency wallets. The money didn't enrich individuals. It sustained operations, lease payments, vehicle purchases, logistics, payroll for enforcers and coordinators. This wasn't a scam. This was a business model. Comment shocked if you can't believe this was happening. Agents found more in the basement. A storage area accessible only through the utility corridor. Reinforced locks, climate control, motion sensors. Inside, 340 counterfeit identification documents, driver's licenses, social security cards, work permits, all professionally produced, holograms, magnetic strips, barcodes that scanned clean. Each ID was linked to a real person. Stolen identities harvested from data breaches and Medicare fraud schemes. The IDs weren't for sale. They were for deployment. Agents also found weapons, not personal sidearms. Tactical inventory, 12 semi-automatic rifles, 9mm handguns, 400 rounds of ammunition, suppressors, night vision optics, body armor. This wasn't self-defense. This was enforcement capability. Share this video so more people understand what's happening. The arrests triggered a broader federal response. Within 6 hours, coordinated raids hit locations across 4 states. Chicago, a warehouse leased under another North Star affiliate, 18 arrests. Milwaukee, a residential safe house, 7 arrests. Detroit, an automotive repair shop serving as a logistics hub, 11 arrests. Each location followed the same pattern: bulk leases, minimal visibility, federal funding routed through non-profit facades. Treasury analysts traced the money backward. The offshore accounts feeding North Star were controlled by 3 individuals. None lived in the United States. 2 were based in Monterrey, Mexico. 1 in Guatemala City. All 3 had prior convictions: human smuggling, drug trafficking, money laundering. They weren't running a charity. They were running a cartel infrastructure cell. The hotel wasn't housing refugees. It was staging operatives. The federal grants weren't being defrauded. They were being weaponized. ICE Director Patrick Leschleitner addressed the operation in a closed briefing. His words were blunt. This represents a structural threat to immigration enforcement, not a case, a system. He continued, when criminal networks can access federal funding, lease properties, and move personnel using legitimate channels, the distinction between legal and illegal collapses. If you want to see how deep this goes, type justice below. The 26 arrested individuals faced a range of charges: illegal re-entry, identity fraud, conspiracy to commit immigration violations. But the charges didn't capture the full scope. These men weren't migrants seeking opportunity. They were logistics operatives. Interrogations revealed compartmentalized roles: drivers, money handlers, enforcers, coordinators. No one knew the full network. Each knew only their task. One detainee, a 29-year-old from Honduras, described the recruitment process. I was told I'd get housing, documents, and $1,200 a week. All I had to do was move packages and keep quiet. He claimed he didn't know what the packages contained. Agents didn't believe him. Forensic analysis of his phone showed communication with known fentanyl distribution cells in Minneapolis. Another detainee, a 32-year-old previously deported twice, admitted to coordinating vehicle logistics. I picked people up from the hotel, drove them to houses, dropped off supplies. I didn't ask questions. He described a system of strict operational security. No phones during transport, no names used, no deviations from routes. Failure meant consequences. He showed scars on his forearm from a punishment beating. This wasn't employment. This was coercion wrapped in cash. Hit like if this story matters to you. The financial forensics took weeks. FinCEN analysts reconstructed the money flow across 14 entities and 89 bank accounts. Federal grants entered the system through legitimate nonprofit applications. Emergency housing, refugee services, healthcare reimbursements. Once deposited, the money moved fast, transferred to secondary accounts within hours, broken into smaller amounts, withdrawn as cash. Over $18 million was withdrawn in increments just below the $10,000 reporting threshold. Classic structuring behavior. But this wasn't amateur hour. The withdrawals happened across 47 different bank branches, different states, different time zones. Automated, coordinated, invisible to individual branch oversight. The cash-funded operations. But a larger portion stayed digital. $64 million moved through cryptocurrency exchanges. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, converted, laundered, repatriated to accounts in Mexico, Guatemala, and Colombia. The nonprofit facade allowed the network to access federal money. The crypto layer allowed them to extract it undetected. This was financial engineering at cartel scale. Comment exposed if you're still watching. Minnesota authorities froze 89 accounts within 48 hours of the raid. Asset seizures began immediately. $8.3 million in liquid funds. 14 vehicles. 6 commercial properties. The cross-country in lease was terminated. The building was placed under federal hold. But the investigation revealed something more disturbing. The hotel wasn't the only site. ICE identified 11 additional properties leased under similar nonprofit structures, spread across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan. Some were active. Some had been abandoned after short-term use. All showed the same operational signature: bulk leases, minimal oversight, transient populations. One property in Kenosha, Wisconsin, had been leased for 4 months. 42 individuals cycled through. Then it went dark. When agents entered, they found the interior stripped. No furniture, no records, no trace, except for one detail. Residue tests on the walls came back positive for fentanyl. The properties weren't just housing operatives. They were staging points for narcotics distribution. The riot at the cross-country inn wasn't random violence. It was a defensive response. The network knew enforcement was closing in. The enforcers in room 237 weren't guests. They were there to destroy evidence. Agents found burned documents in the bathtub, shredded hard drives in the trash, bleach poured over paperwork. The fight wasn't about escape. It was about buying time. They failed. Share this so more people know the truth. Federal prosecutors filed charges against 14 individuals directly linked to North Star Humanitarian Services and its affiliates. The charges included conspiracy to defraud the United States, wire fraud, money laundering, and human smuggling. But the 3 offshore controllers remained beyond reach. No extradition treaties. No cooperative enforcement. They operated from safe zones, directing, coordinating, profiting, and the system that enabled them remained largely intact. Congressional oversight began in February. The House Judiciary Committee launched an inquiry into HHS and FEMA grant disbursement protocols. How did 14 shell nonprofits receive $23.7 million in federal funding without triggering oversight? The answer was procedural. The agencies relied on state-level vetting. States relied on incorporation documents and tax filings. No one verified operational capacity. No one visited facilities. No one cross-checked recipient addresses. The system was built on trust, and trust had been weaponized. If you believe accountability matters, comment accountability below. Immigration enforcement advocates pointed to the case as evidence of systemic failure. This isn't about individual fraud, one former IC official stated. This is about criminal organizations exploiting the infrastructure designed to help vulnerable populations. He continued, when you combine lax oversight, federal funding, and non-profit camouflage, you create an environment where cartels can operate openly. The political response split predictably. Some called for stricter immigration enforcement. Others called for better grant oversight. But both sides agreed on one thing: the system had been penetrated, and the damage was ongoing. Treasury's Financial Crimes Unit expanded its investigation. They identified 37 additional entities nationwide with similar operational patterns: bulk property leases, federal grant access, offshore financial ties, transient populations. Not all were confirmed cartel operations, but all warranted scrutiny. The investigation was no longer regional, it was national. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. For the residents of Brooklyn Center, the raid was a shock. The cross-country inn had been a neighborhood fixture for years. Locals described seeing increased activity in recent months. More vehicles, more people, more noise. But no one suspected federal-level criminal infrastructure. One resident, a retired teacher living across the street, described the morning of the raid. "I heard the flashbangs, thought it was an explosion. Then I saw the lights. Police everywhere. Helicopters overhead." She continued, "I couldn't believe it. This is a quiet area. Families, schools nearby. And this was happening right here." Community trust fractured. If a hotel could be a cartel hub, what else was hidden? The psychological impact spread. Parents questioned school safety. Businesses worried about property values. The invisible network had become visible, and the visibility bred fear. Federal authorities held a public briefing. ICE, FBI, and local law enforcement appeared together. The message was clear. This operation was targeted. The threat has been neutralized. The community is safe. But the questions lingered. How long had it been operating? How many people passed through? What else didn't we know? The answers were incomplete. And incomplete answers don't restore trust. Type truth if you want investigations like this to continue. The broader implications reached Washington. The case became a flashpoint in immigration policy debates. Critics of current enforcement policy pointed to the cross-country inn as proof of systemic gaps. When criminal organizations can lease properties, access federal funds, and move personnel using non-profit structures, enforcement has failed, one senator argued during hearings. Supporters of refugee programs countered that the case was an outlier, that tightening oversight would harm legitimate organizations helping vulnerable populations. The debate ignored a central fact. The network didn't exploit legal immigration. It exploited the infrastructure around it: the grants, the leases, the lack of verification, the assumption of good faith. Cartels didn't break the system, they used it. Federal agencies implemented immediate reforms. HHS required site visits for all grant recipients over $500,000. FEMA tightened identity verification for emergency housing programs. But the reforms were reactive. The damage was done. $102.4 million had already moved. 14 properties had already been used. 200+ operatives had already been staged. The network had grown, adapted, profited, and the 3 offshore controllers were still free. If this makes you angry, hit like now. ICE analysts conducted a post-operation assessment. The findings were classified, but portions leaked to oversight committees. The network had operated for at least 18 months before detection, possibly longer. Conservative estimates suggested 400 to 600 individuals passed through the Minnesota hub alone. If similar operations existed in other states, and evidence suggested they did, the total could exceed 2,000. Not all were operatives. Some were genuine migrants exploited by smugglers. But the line between victim and participant blurred in practice. The network offered transportation, documents, and housing. In exchange, it demanded loyalty and service. Refusal wasn't an option. One detainee described a migrant who tried to leave. He was found beaten in an alley 3 days later. The message was clear: you work, or you suffer. This wasn't opportunity. This was entrapment. The fentanyl connection deepened the concern. Residue found at multiple properties confirmed narcotics handling, but agents found no large-scale drug storage, no processing labs, no distribution centers. The properties served as waypoints, temporary holds for personnel and product moving through regional supply chains. The model was decentralized. Small quantities, frequent movement, minimal footprint. This made interdiction harder. There was no central warehouse to raid, no single node to disrupt. The network was fluid, adaptive, resilient. Comment stop if you believe this must be shut down completely. One of the arrested operatives provided critical intelligence during interrogation. He described the recruitment pipeline. It began in Central America. Smuggling networks offered passage to the United States for $8,000 to $12,000 per person. But many migrants couldn't pay up front. So the smugglers offered credit. Pay when you arrive. Work off the debt. Once in the US, the debt became leverage. Migrants were housed in network properties, given documents, assigned jobs, construction, kitchens, delivery services, and logistics for the network itself. Wages were withheld. Debt balances inflated. Escape meant deportation or worse. This wasn't migration. This was debt bondage. Federal prosecutors filed human trafficking charges against 5 individuals linked to the recruitment pipeline. But the scale suggested hundreds of potential victims. And most were untraceable. They had no legal status, no records, no willingness to cooperate with authorities. Fear of deportation kept them silent. Fear of retribution kept them compliant. The network thrived on invisibility. And invisibility required silence. If you want this exposed further, share this video now. The cross-country inn remained under federal control for months. The property became a crime scene. Evidence teams combed every room. Blood samples, fingerprints, digital devices, financial records. The hotel's management company cooperated fully. They claimed no knowledge of the operation. The lease had been signed remotely. Payments arrived on time. No complaints were filed. On paper, North Star Humanitarian Services was a model tenant. But federal investigators found inconsistencies. Maintenance requests were minimal. Housekeeping was refused for most rooms. Occupancy rates were reported inaccurately. The management company didn't ask questions. They didn't investigate. They collected rent. This wasn't complicity. It was willful ignorance. The legal fallout expanded. The property owner faced civil asset forfeiture proceedings. The management company faced negligence claims. Both argued they were victims of fraud. Federal attorneys argued they enabled it through negligence. The courts would decide, but the message was sent. Ignorance is no longer a defense. By late March, the prosecutions moved forward. 14 defendants faced trial. 26 arrests had been made, but not all faced federal charges. Some were deported immediately. Others cooperated in exchange for reduced charges. The trials focused on the leadership, the coordinators, the enforcers. Prosecutors presented financial records, encrypted communications, and testimony from cooperating witnesses. The defense argued entrapment, coercion, lack of intent, but the evidence was overwhelming. The coordination was too precise. The financial flows too deliberate. Juries returned guilty verdicts in 11 of 14 cases. Sentences ranged from 8 to 22 years. Asset forfeitures totaled $14.7 million. But the 3 offshore controllers remained untouched. Hit like if you believe justice is incomplete without them. The investigation didn't end with convictions. Federal task forces continued mapping the broader network. ICE identified 19 additional properties with similar patterns across 7 states. Not all were confirmed cartel operations, but all were flagged for enhanced scrutiny. The shift was strategic. Instead of reactive enforcement, agencies adopted proactive monitoring. Grant applications underwent deeper vetting. Property leases were cross-referenced with immigration databases. Financial flows were tracked in real time. The system wasn't perfect, but it was better. And the message was clear. The infrastructure had been exposed. The loopholes were closing. For criminal networks, the cost of operation was rising. Community impact lingered long after the raid. Brooklyn Center residents demanded accountability. Town halls were held. Federal officials explained the operation, but trust was slow to rebuild. One resident spoke for many. "We want to feel safe. We want to know this won't happen again." But words aren't enough. We need action. Action came in the form of increased local law enforcement presence. ICE liaison officers embedded with city police. Federal-local cooperation improved. Information sharing became routine. The model was replicated in other cities where similar operations were suspected. The lesson was simple. Criminal networks exploit gaps between federal and local oversight. Closing those gaps requires collaboration. Type secure if you believe communities deserve protection. The broader policy debate continued. Immigration reform advocates called for comprehensive legislation, tighter grant oversight, stronger identity verification, enhanced interagency coordination. But political gridlock stalled progress. Each reform proposal faced opposition from one faction or another. Meanwhile, criminal networks adapted. They always do. New shell entities emerged. Different names, different structures, same operational model. The cross-country inn model wasn't dead. It was evolving. Federal agencies remained vigilant. But vigilance requires resources. and resources require political will. The fight wasn't over. It had just entered a new phase. 1 year after the raid, ICE released a summary report. Portions were redacted, but key findings were public. The Minnesota network had been dismantled. 62 arrests total across 4 states. $31.4 million in assets seized. But the offshore controllers remained at large, and intelligence suggested they had relocated operations to Texas and Arizona. The network hadn't been destroyed. It had been displaced. For federal agents, the work continued. For the communities affected, the scars remained. The cross-country inn stood empty, a symbol of betrayal. A reminder that threats don't always look threatening. Sometimes they look like charity, sometimes they look like help, and sometimes they hide behind the very systems meant to protect us. If you believe stories like this matter, hit like now. If you want investigations to continue, subscribe to this channel. If you think accountability is worth fighting for, comment justice below. And share this video so more people understand what's happening in America today. The truth doesn't spread itself. It needs you. This is only the beginning.